Welcome to the Friday edition of Wyatt's World. I'm recording this, as always, the day before, on Thursday, September 17th, which is the day of the new moon this month. And as such, it marks the beginning of the new year in the Jewish calendar, Rosh Hashanah, which will go for 3 days. It's also the middle of the 10th lunar month in the Cambodian Buddhist calendar, which is also a major celebration called Pajumpan, and it marks what is sometimes called the end of Buddhist Lent. They don't really have a Lent in the same way as in the Christian tradition, but it is a very important celebratory day. It's a day when we go to the temple, and that's why I've got my camera out walking around Pochentong pagoda near where I live. And it's a remarkable coincidence that I wanted today to talk about why it's difficult to change. And both Rosh Hashanah and Pajumpan are times in the year of self-reflection when you stop and you say, what did I do last year that I could do differently this year? Which is, of course, a very difficult question to answer, and leads me to the question of the day: why do we find change so difficult? Alright, so here's my smiling face again. Had a bit of a change. The start was outside and I was walking, and now of course I'm back in my apartment. So the question why we find change so hard is not all that easy to answer. I mean, one answer could be, well, we really don't want to change. And of course, that's true. That's why we don't change, because we don't want to. But the thing is that we also do want to. And there are many things about our lives that we're not happy with. So we want to change them, but we also don't want to change them. And like simple example, which I've given you several times before, is that for a long time I've smoked Cuban cigars. Most of my life I didn't smoke at all. When I was young, when I was in college, I used to smoke roll-up cigarettes, cheap. But I gave that up pretty much after I left college. Partly because it was too expensive, partly because it was not good for my health. And then I started smoking Cuban cigars for the dopiest reason. I was living in Buenos Aires, and they were not expensive, and they were available. They're illegal in the United States. And I thought that it was a sort of act of rebellion, if you like, to smoke cigars that are illegal in the United States, where I had lived for 38 years. And then I just kept going. And that was nearly 10 years ago. And so finally, last year, at some point, I wasn't really happy with the way my cardiopulmonary system was working. I had high blood pressure. I had a cough. I was not riding my bicycle as well as I could do, and so I decided, okay, I will stop smoking cigars. Okay, so I said I want to stop. That was last year, and I finally managed to stop about 2 months ago. So it took me maybe 6 or 7 months to go through all of the anguish and concern of giving up, and then just having one more, and then giving up again, and then having another, and off and on and off and on like that. It was really ridiculous. Why was that happening? Well, I think one of the answers is summed up by the word habit. And we have to then look at why we have the habits that we have. Now, habits are not as easy to understand as you might think. In the case of something like smoking, or alcohol, or coffee, or any number of things that you take into your body, there is a physical addiction. Most people who drink coffee are addicted to caffeine. Most people who smoke are addicted to nicotine, and so forth. So there is a physical component, a physical addiction. So there's no question that when I tried to give up cigars, at first I had to keep giving in to the urge because it was a physical urge. All right, that's easy to understand, and it can be transferred to a number of things like sugar, fat, caffeine, chocolate, whatever you want. And some of those addictions are very difficult to break. But even when you break the physical addiction, there's still a psychological component. And that's the component that is very difficult to break, because it doesn't come from the simple act of taking smoke into your lungs or taking sugar into your stomach or what have you. It has to come from the hole in your heart, your psyche, your soul, wherever you think the holes reside. That hole is being filled by that habit. When you don't have that habit, what are you going to fill that hole with? And the easiest answer is, well, I'll go back to smoking. I'll go back to eating cakes. I'll go back to drinking coffee. Because it's harder to figure out why you have that hole in the first place. That's very difficult. And the truth of the matter is, I don't know why I still want to smoke cigars. I still do. I have not smoked not one cigar in 2 months. I've been tempted a few times. Unfortunately, the cigar shop is a 40-minute bicycle ride away from here, so I can't just decide, oh, let's just go and get a cigar. And it's not always open at convenient times. It starts selling at 11 o'clock in the morning. It's already blistering hot by then, so getting on my bike and riding there is just inhumane. Plus, they have the habit of not opening for odd reasons. There'd be a sign out saying not open today. And so I've 90-minute round trip for nothing in the blistering heat. So that's good, that it stops me from just saying, okay, let's just go and do it. Like I could do if I was smoking cigarettes. I could go to any number of 100 stores, buy some cigarettes. Buying cigars is a lot more complex. But I still want to do it every day. Every morning I get up and I think, it'd be nice to sit on my balcony and puff on a cigar. Why is that? What hole in my heart or my soul is that cigar filling? And what else could I substitute for it? What I'm doing right now is, I guess what Freudians call sublimation. That is, I'm just taking that urge and I'm turning it around and pushing it into my writing. And just saying, okay, this is how I'm going to fill that hole. But it's not really filling the hole. And this is the thing. These holes come in different sizes. And there's only one peg that will fit that hole. You know the whole metaphor of a square peg in a round hole. Well, if you've got a round hole in your heart from the cigar, which is round, and you put a square peg in that hole, you know, my writing, it sort of fills the hole and sort of doesn't fill the hole. Is there something that is closer to a circle to fill that hole? And more importantly, why is that hole there in the first place? It's not about cigars. There's something else that's missing. And I'm not somehow getting it. I don't understand what it is. If I knew what it is, then I would be able to fill it and I wouldn't need the cigars anymore. Don't know. I mean, in the days of the pandemic, it could be a whole slew of things. It could be the fact that I'm missing people that I care about, and I can't contact them very often or very easily. I mean, it could be that I need more friends locally. I need to be visiting more people. Could be that I need to be helping more people. When I was teaching earlier this year, I had less trouble with cigars than I do now. I still smoked cigars, but I never smoked when I was teaching, and that would be most of the day. I would leave here at 11 in the morning and get home at 4 or 5 in the afternoon, and I never smoked at all. Never even thought about smoking. So that was probably filling some kind of void. So that, I guess, is my closing question for you. If you are trying to change something that is a habit, what need is that habit filling apart from a simple physical addiction? What else is it filling for you that you are having trouble filling in other ways? Very difficult, and I will pursue this further. Maybe Tuesday, maybe not, depends on whether I cook or not. And meanwhile, please like, subscribe, and have a good Rosh Hashanah if you are Jewish. I don't expect many of you are Cambodian Buddhists, but also Rikriye Pjamban to you, and I will see you on Tuesday.